Our virtues and our failings are inseparable, like force and matter. When they separate, man is no more. So opined Nikola Tesla. Well, Mr. Tesla, when they separate and man is no more, what is left? It is my contention that what remains is the void. What is the void? What are the inner worlds? The inner worlds are states of power and consciousness that exist outside and independent of the human body. They are not a product of our collective imagination. However, our collective imagination over vast sums of time, millennia, has created interfaces or images by which we can understand and interact with the various forces that exist all around us. These forces are the forces of the universe, the templates of creation and destruction. And some are energetic constructs that humanity has built and worked within throughout our history. Through visionary work, we can interact with various beings, such as angelic beings, land spirits, deities, demonic beings, the dead, etc., etc. We find these beings in various inner realms. For example, the realm of death, the underworld, the angelic realm, the desert tree of life, etc. We can also plunge deeper into the inner worlds to experience and interact with the forces of nature, of life and death, and divinity itself. This interaction is not new and has been used in various ways by tribal magicians, ancient priests, mystics, and visionaries from various cultures throughout time. In the West, we slowly became divorced from this method of working for a variety of reasons, from cultural beliefs, religious dogma, scientific rationalism, the list goes on. This divorce has had a massive impact on magical practice in the West, and we are only recently starting to slowly recover from that severing. Bear in mind that the use of these words is just my particular opinion, my perspective from what I have ascertained, from what resonates within my truth matrix. And I encourage you, my dear and esteemed viewer, to practice discernment always. Never accept as gospel truth. I'm sure you are quite of that mind already. I just figured it'd be a nice disclaimer to put forth, to be courteous to my fellow aspirants. Oh, and by the way, the Folgers this morning, instant and adequately heated, is particularly stimulating. Invigorating, I might venture to say. So let's don't get hung up on names, whatnot. As long as I'm not gaslighting, beating someone over the head, trying to marginalize your truth, your awareness, because we are all aspects of God. And as such, our mission was, we were sent out to gather our own unique perspective, to report back to source. So with that in mind, with that reference, reminder of our origin, our lineage, where we hail from, let's talk about the void. For we shall have no fear. And we will be courageous enough to even consider the void, perhaps maybe even journey to the void. Luxuriate within the void. Make it a home for an amount of time that you see fit. The void itself is the most commonly misunderstood term used in visionary magic. Some think of it as the biblical abyss. Some think of it as the astral realms, and some think it describes their head the morning after a bottle of whiskey. Been there, done that. The void is a place of nothingness that holds the potential for everything. It is like the universe drawing breath before it breathes life into existence. Everything comes from the void into manifestation. It is the raw power of potential. When the energy has gathered to create and is just on the threshold of the process of manifestation. For Kabbalists, it is the power of divine utterance, potential, as it begins its parade down the tree of life, taking its form from interacting with the spheres of power before finally manifesting in Malkuth. In visionary magical terms, the void can be worked with in two key ways. The first way to develop a way to work with the void is to imagine the void as a place of nothingness that lays beyond a threshold. We imagine a flame. We pass through the flame using the element of fire as a gateway, and we pass into a place where there is no time, no movement, nothing. As the student gets used to being in a place where there is nothing and being able to have a still and silent mind, they have acquired the ability to work with the void, because the void is full of all potential. It can be used as a stepping through point or a threshold to gain access to other places. It is also a very good tool to use to slow the mind down so that the clear work can begin. You can step through the void, and you will also experience the void by having your mind totally still and silent. The next phase of working with the void is to bring the void into yourself, or better said, to tune yourself to the void. Instead of stepping over a threshold to the void, you simply sit and slowly silence your mind and body until you are nowhere and nothing. Within that silence, you focus upon the void as the place that all potential and creation comes from. The shift from being still and silent to awareness of the void as the energy from which everything flows moves your consciousness from simple stillness to being within the void. That shift of awareness is a major tool in magic and allows the deeper powers within you to rise to the surface while plugging you into the power frequency of creation, not the matrix power frequency of the divine grid programmer's creation. Namaste, namaskaram. The power potential that is within everything manifest, the power frequency of creation, the Om, the vibratory essence of the creator's sacred geometry. Everything is constantly creating and destroying at an energetic level in some form or other, and the use of the void shifts you into that stream of power and consciousness. It is not an easy thing to do, and some people take months to learn the technique. Some take years, and others can master it in a few weeks. It is a very individual experience, but it never stops deepening and developing. The power of the void within you deepens and grows throughout your working life as a magician until it becomes an extremely profound and powerful experience. It really depends upon your own mind, the environment in which you live, and also the external input your mind receives on a daily basis. For someone who is used to living in a very simple way, the void is not too difficult a task for them to achieve. For someone raised around computers, fast bites of information, TV, phones, etc., it can be much harder for them to master the stillness, but it is not impossible. The longer your attention span, the easier it gets. The void can be used as a threshold. It can also be a place to work if you're working on a magical task that involves mediating a new power, energy, etc., into the manifest world. It is also extremely useful if you are magically attacked by a powerful being. When you go in the void, your boundaries loosen and you spread out your consciousness to everything that is around you. You become like mist, which in turn creates a situation where the being has nothing to grab onto. Comes in very handy, trust me. Stilling the monkey mind. Why? Why would you want to still your monkey mind? Well, it's very important, particularly with visionary magic. However, really in all magic, and that the mind can be properly stilled and silent. Once that has been achieved, then the magician can learn to use their mind with absolute focus to achieve magical patterns, inner contact, and hold, mediate power without distraction. The mind is the major tool of the magician, and a monkey mind is a disaster in magic. Meditation, meditation, meditation,
Meditation.
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 meditation, working with the void, and learning focused, simple ritual are all ways that a magician learns to harness their mind and imagination to work with it. Magic is the moving around of energy and power. It is interacting with other beings through consciousness. So a trained mind is absolutely essential. The longer term training of the mind in magic also begins the process of rewiring the brain so that the brain learns the magical skills in detail, learns to recognize and work with the magical images or vocabulary in depth, which in turn allows the magician to do his or her job. It is exactly the same as learning a detailed skill, such as a classical art. I recall with vivid, I was going to say fondness, but that would be a bit of a stretch to say that I recall the days that I had to master the ninjutsu art of walking on rice paper without leaving, obviously, the goal, walking on the rice paper, your footprint, leaving no passage, no mark of your passage, much less the breaking of the rice paper. Classical art such as that, carpentry, or science at a doctorate level, the brain has to adjust itself to develop specific skills that only long-term work and study develop. This is why instant magic manuals, ritual recipe books, etc., do not make a magician. Constant work and training in specific areas of inner and outer work make a magician. Being aware of how much of a monkey your mind really is can be a bit of a shock. Just test it by sitting in a room with no stimulus, no noise, no people, nothing to look at except this video presentation from the Umbanda New Earth Education. Sit in silence and be aware of your thoughts. See how your mind jumps from one thing to the next, how much your body wants to move. It can be quite a revelation. Then shut your eyes and sit quietly. Again, be aware of thoughts, movements that make the body, that tries to make your body move, thoughts that try to make. We are very rarely silent in our modern world. Once you are aware of the level of monkey mind you possess, what brand of monkey exists within, then you can start to slowly train the mind to settle, to be quiet, for the body to be still and not itch, move, or twitch. Don't try to force it too much in a determined, I am going to conquer myself way. Just practice once or twice a day to be silent for a while. And slowly let that time build up until you can sit in silence for a long time without realizing how much time has passed. With that achieved, work with the void visions to see how different the two states of silence feel. One is simple silence and stillness. The other is silence and stillness, but with a huge sense of power behind it. That is the creation potential that is in the void. The next stage is to practice walking around the house and then down the street in a state of inner silence. This one is harder, but is the initial training for empowered ritual. Ritual work with while the mind is in the inner world. You learn to be in two places at once, with the mind in the inner temple or in a specific inner realm while the body is conducting a ritual action. The power begins to flow from the inner world through you and out into the ritual. That ritual forming of power is then mediated out into the world in whatever form you are working. Incidentally, referring back to the arcane understanding of the revelations of St. John, there is mention of a city being built when the seven angels enact the seven energies that emit the energy impulses to the chakras, and how the seven churches, the seven chakras, as each being an energy point on our spinal column and in direct relation with our internal organs, how all that's part of our nervous system, as well as being connected to our endocrine system, candlesticks, lampstands, seven well-known science metaphysics as being the number of organization. All things are in the order of seven. But the city, the holy city that is created when your chakras are activated, your higher nature has assumed the throne of consciousness. All is in divine congruence as it was designed to be. That stillness, that void that is simply your ego, the absence of your ego. The void can simply be understood in that fashion. It's nothing that needs to be viewed or looked upon as some kind of dark, scary, evil place. It's simply, the void is simply getting your ego out of the way, dispelling the illusion, and allowing the power that is in the void, which is essentially your source connected awareness. It is a blissful stillness of divine power that one experiences when they go into the void. You will not need your weapons there, Jedi. Only what you bring within your mind and your divine matrix is what will manifest in the void. So learn to still the mind, Learn to see through the veils of illusion that the ego only has to offer. And touch the true power. True power is in the void.
Namaste. Namaskaram.